everyone. Welcome to Blockchain Banter Trading Crypto. I'm Jen, and I'm here with Keith Allen, co-founder of Material Indicators, TA and algo trader, and order book analyst. Dr. Mark Richardson, project lead at Bancor and Carbon DeFi, and Crypto Choreo, data-driven insights, all sorts of insights. We're actually going to take a look at your new Dune dashboards, Choreo. I don't know if you mind starting us off, but I saw you had released a new one yesterday, right? That's an entirely new one that you had
Absolutely,
introduced on your
yes.
Twitter. Yeah, do you
Yes.
mind maybe starting us off? Because I feel like there's some fun alpha in here and we can just kind of maybe jump right to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me share the screen and we can start
Cool.
straight with that. Okay, so let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it. First of all, I don't know how you get all of this data together. It is so impressive. I think Keith said something about what'd you call him yesterday, Keith, a data junkie?
My favorite data junkie.
It's so true. It's
Uh,
so true. All right, let's
yeah,
see.
so it's just a passion for data that I had since many years, and now I'm happy that I can capitalize all of that on DeFi and crypto. And it's a joy because there is so much data in DeFi and crypto, from analyzing tokens and prices to different protocols and projects and blockchains and narratives. So many things to do, and so it's a pleasure, for me to go deeper into these subjects. And there is always something new. There's always a new ecosystem. Recently, there were these runes. Maybe we will talk about this briefly on Bitcoin. So, which is an extension of ordinals and BRC20s. So, that actually pushed me to go deeper on Bitcoin and the UTXO model. And so, very interesting stuff. Always learning. And let's go back to narratives. So I think the audience is familiar with this dashboard, which is the breakdown of different narratives, as well as an overview of all the narratives here in one chart on different time frames here. But this is about price and how the different tokens of these different narratives are performing. However, there was one element that was missing, and that was the social aspect. We know that a lot of times there is, Twitter, more specifically, crypto Twitter is a source of alpha, and a lot of all the announcements, all the important news events, catalysts, everything is announced there. Founders, VCs, devs, traders, investors, all different cohorts are on crypto Twitter. However, the problem with Twitter is that there is also a lot of noise, as you know, a lot of scams, a lot of different, maybe false information, etc. And it's really difficult to retrieve insights from it, especially that for data guys like me, the Twitter API is not really is not really usable even if you pay for it. So now, very recently, there is this social media, decentralized social media called Forecaster, who has been gaining a lot of traction. And this is the subject of this new dashboard that you can see here. Is called Narratives Social Trends. And you can see here the activity here on this new kind of social media. And you can see that it's going really parabolic since the start of the year, but also more importantly, since the last month. And there is a lot of founders, a lot of devs, a lot of very insightful conversations happening in this social media. And it's also, I would say, the signal to noise ratio is much better compared to Twitter, because you don't have all the noise and all the spam yet. And more importantly, it's decentralized for so for us who are into DeFi, it's absolutely a better alternative. You own your data. But that is one aspect. The other aspect for me as a data analyst is that I can actually easily query all the data and have insights from it. So let's go over the dashboard. Similar to my narrative dashboard, And because this is again narrative focused, so this is the start of the dashboard. I'm gonna spend more time on it in May, but to start with, we have different narratives, so L1 narrative, L2 narrative, etc. And what we are seeing here is the number of times, for example, on this specific chart, the number of times each of these different L1 protocols or projects have been mentioned in different posts on Forecaster. So every time somebody mentions Solana or they post about it, then we would increase actually the number of mention here. And so already we are seeing some interesting patterns here. Look how the orange thing is increasing, and what is this orange is Bitcoin actually. And so starting from the end of March, we are seeing a strong increase in Bitcoin, in the number of mentions of Bitcoin. And look, where is the top? On the halving day. So exactly on the halving day, we are seeing the top in terms of number of mentions of Bitcoin, and then from there it's going down. And you can see also here the number of mentions in terms of shares. That was like almost 25% at the bottom, and then on the top, that was like almost 74%, in just 3 weeks, which is interesting to see. We know that the catalyst for that was the halving, but there are some interesting insights here. For example, also Solana, back in February had, some issues where the chain was down, and you can see here all of a sudden the number of mentions on Solana being very, very high. So you can use this to see like anomalies on different, chains that are all of a sudden trending, and the idea here is that one, you can find maybe some announcements, some catalysts related to these L1s. We mentioned the Bitcoin halving, the Solana going down, but sometimes there is something going on that you can allow you to also capitalize on the opportunity, because maybe people start talking about something new that ultimately would benefit the price appreciation of that coin. And so this is how that could be useful. Now we are seeing here, very similar to my other dashboard, where we are seeing the relative comparison of all these blockchains in time. We are seeing the number of mentions that these are having this week compared to last week. So for example, Bitcoin, we mentioned Bitcoin, the halving was last week, so obviously, as we are seeing here, people are now talking less about Bitcoin. So that's why you're seeing a decrease in the number of mentions of Bitcoin. And for example, it seems that people are talking about Kava, which is a layer one. I haven't really followed what's going on here, but that could be something to look for people. Maybe that would lead to some price appreciation of Kava. Let's just look at Kava.
That's really interesting because like I don't see a lot about Kava on my Twitter feed at all. So I'm surprised to
Yeah.
see it has such a presence there on Farcaster.
So I think it's interesting because the cohorts and the behavior of cohorts are different on Forecast and on Crypto
Yeah.
Twitter. I would say that people on Forecaster are more like DeFi natives, or are maybe more advanced in their journey on DeFi, and that's also maybe why they endorsed this decentralized social media. And not only that, but they are also actively using it. And there is also, a lot of, normally retail users, or maybe people just joining crypto would not go on Forecaster. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to use it. But people who are into the space and are active, and they want to have meaningful conversations with less noise, they would go there. And that's why actually, if you do the same thing on Crypto Twitter, I'm sure that you would get a different distribution, because there are all these people talking about airdrops and this token going to the moon, etc. But we are seeing a different pattern here.
Corey, I have a question for you. Actually, a couple. So, excuse me. Jen just said she didn't see much of Kava on her Twitter feed, but you're obviously showing a spike in it here on Forecaster. Could that be because what we're exposed to on our individual Twitter feeds is really fed by an algorithm that you may or
Absolutely.
may not have much engagement in that. Whereas what you're showing in the dashboard here is really the raw data coming out of the social platform. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This is raw data, no filtering. And this is everything that is happening on that social media. As you said, the algorithm, every social media has recommendation algorithms that
Right.
is actually choosing the content that you're seeing based on your interactions and based on what this algorithm thinks you would like the most, and based also on what other people are that have similar behavior to you are liking, etc. So this
Right.
creates some kind of bias where you might not see something that is interesting to you just because the way the algorithm works. And also they keep changing this algorithm, etc. Is an entire field on its own to study. For example, Twitter algorithm. But here we are not. There is no like filter. This is complete raw
Right.
data that we are seeing here.
Okay. My other question is, you were using Bitcoin as an example that it mentions peaked on the halving, right? Which was April 20th, and mentions could be bullish mentions, they could be bearish mentions. So how do we know? How can we filter what's actionable that we can take from this? Because the 20th, which was the halving date, did not represent a peak in price for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so how do you um, find
Absolutely, I
something
get your
actionable
question.
out of this data to know that it's positive
That's
or
a great
negative?
that's a great question. So there are a few things. First of all, we are limited on what we could do on Dune because this is a SQL-based platform. I cannot do like advanced programming like machine learning, like Python stuff, which means that what you were describing is called something like sentiment analysis, and this is a very studied field in machine learning and NLP, which means that you have some text and then you will analyze this text and train a model to understand if this is, for example, this has a positive or negative sentiment, or in the case of trading or crypto, if this is a bullish, tweet or post or whatever, or bearish. We don't have that capability on Dune, so this is something to consider for sure. I would say that what you can bring from that is that usually this could be a sign of volatility. So increased number of mentions, you don't know what's the sentiment behind it. But when a lot of people start talking about it, you can actually be confident that this is bringing some volatility. Because there is interest into it, and some people are buying, some people are selling, and then this is increased volatility. Which, if you're a trader, you might we like that volatility for sure. So if you want to then analyze the sentiment, the only way is you cannot do that on here on Dune. There are some platforms focusing on that, but what you can do is actually look at what people are talking about. So here there is this other section of the dashboard where you can put anything you want here, and for example, runes. I mentioned runes, which are a new kind of standard on Bitcoin, and then you can see the growth over the last number of days. You can specify that how many days, and then you can see what people are talking about. So, for example, let me put Bitcoin here, and I can put like last 3 days because many people talk about Bitcoin, and then this will run this algorithm, and then you can see what people are talking about it are talking about on Bitcoin. So is it still good to invest in Bitcoin? Some people are talking about different things, Satoshi Nakamoto, and so McDonald's accepting Bitcoin as payment in Lugano, Switzerland. There are a lot of different things, but to get a sense of the bearishness and bullishness, you would need to spend some time here. I would say reading these posts. And
Okay, can you go back to the top graph where we saw every
mhm.
so can we gather anything from just the increase or decline in total mentions, right? Is this like relative
Yes.
to volume, sentiment of the market overall?
So what you're seeing here is actually everything here is just the number of mentions for now. So if things are going up, like here, for example, this is a good example. For example, just today we had the announcement of EigenLayer, token, and so you're seeing this big spike in number of mentions. So again, sometimes this is you can use that as something like actionable and trade it. For example, this is because the Eigen token is being released this week. So if you are somebody who like trading very, very fresh tokens that are just being listed at TG and that have a lot of attention, obviously, Eigen is one of them. And then, you want to short them, you want to long, you want to trade levels, then this is a great candidate for you. For example, this is the action that you could take on these ones. On the other side, we mentioned about runes.
I think we've all learned by now that's not me.
Yeah, but that's very volatile, and some people specialize into this kind of trading. We mentioned about runes. You can see that runes started to go parabolic, and they reached their peak here in terms of social media activity just 2 days after the halving, and we can see that they're going down. But not only that, it's interesting because the correlation, look at this. This is the number of mentions of runes on Forecaster, and it's going down since April 22nd. And this is now my dashboard on runes, which is a dedicated dashboard. And this is like, you can see very similar pattern here, which is on-chain activity. So we are showing here the number of rune transactions daily, and you can see that that was the day they went live. 23rd was kind of the top, and then from there it's going down in kind of different metrics in the fees and in the number of transactions, etc. And interestingly, on 23rd was the top in terms of number of transactions on runes, and since then it's going down. So
And the
these are
decay is profound.
Yes, it's profound, and it's interesting how closely actually they are mimicking each other. Almost at the same date they peak, and then from there decline. So it shows you how much insights you can take just by analyzing the social activity on different topics. And so here, anything that is of interest to you, you can, for example, we mentioned EigenLayer, you can put that, and then you will have everybody who's talking about EigenLayer. You can see if people are bearish, bullish by spending some time here. You can
I
see
like
the
how you've
trend.
included that, where you can
Yeah,
actually go through. Like what it is, I think, is it's a really solid starting point, right? It might not tell you if you
absolutely.
want to buy or you want to sell or what that actionable item is, but it gives you more of a focused something to kind of like hone in on, right? There's something going on here. Like Kava, we were talking about it. Like, of course, my Twitter feed is going to have that algorithm where it's going to recommend certain things to me, but I'm following all sorts of DeFi projects and different chains, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to think that it's not on there, or even, the threaders and things of that sort, to not see any of that was just kind of surprising, at least once, right? Because I would think that algorithm would pick that up, but then to see such different results here, it just gives you something different to look at outside of the noise of the feed.
Absolutely.
Whether or not you're getting that, same information, I think it's just, like you said, I mean, you're filtering this stuff, right? Corio, I have a question that came in from someone. Is the data lagging volatility or leading it?
That's a good question. To be honest, I just released this dashboard like a few days ago, so I haven't spent enough time to study how actually the relationship between volatility and what we are seeing here. From the only examples that I have looked more closely is runes, and as I showed, there is a high correlation with price, and also if you look at the market cap of runes and transactions, we are seeing something similar now. If it's leading or lagging, That's a good question. I would say generally from observing crypto Twitter, there is generally a high reactivity time in terms of what happens in price and what happens on social media if you follow the right accounts. So for example, Eigenlayer, people, Eigenlayer make an announcement, immediately people on crypto Twitter start talking about it. Renzo, for example, they did their airdrop just today, and immediately, and that's the subject that you see on crypto Twitter. And by the way, you can already see it here. So I have this LRT one as well, and you can see that already Renzo is something that people are talking a lot on
Oh yeah.
Forecaster, and a lot more compared to other protocols. And we also remember that just a few days ago there was this fiasco with Renzo, announcing that something with related to their airdrop that people didn't like, and this created a lot of discussions. So in that sense, it's leading because the token was not yet out there, and already, if you hadn't followed, anything related to Renzo, you just come to this dashboard and you just see this peak, and then you see, oh, actually there's something going on Renzo, and then
Right.
you can come here and then just put Renzo and read or go on Twitter or your preferred social media, and then see what people are talking about, and then you would be ahead in that specific case because today is the day that is going live on Binance just today, and so that would be in that case some leading information. So I would say if it's lagging, it's not lagging by a lot, and a lot of times it could be leading. For example, this Kava example should be looked closer, but I haven't seen anything related to Kava, and as we saw, the token is not yet doing anything in particular. So really, so there maybe there is an announcement or some devs talking about Kava, and then later it could lead to price appreciation. So
Right.
yeah, mhm.
That Kava chart was beautiful. Like,
So
like an
just to
Well,
conclude,
like an escalator. So this, I mean, this really looks like a great application for this. And I barely understand. There's so much here, right? It's a lot to unpack, but at first blush, it kind of looks like this is because you can't really determine whether by the volume of mentions whether it's bullish, whether it's bearish, whether it's a good time to buy or not a good time to buy. But it seems to be
yeah.
like a really good way to screen and find assets that you may want to take a deeper dive into to see if they are meeting your criteria for a trade, long or short.
Absolutely. I think that could, on its own, is not enough to just make investment decisions. However, I think it's a great complement, and it's a great also starting point to look for, what other people are talking about. If, for example, there is a new dashboard, there's a new protocol that comes that you hear somewhere, you want to see what others are saying about it. But if you just go on Twitter and you just put something random, you would have thousands of tweets of some random accounts, and you don't know how much reputation they have or how much you should pay attention. But here, just by looking into the trends of the mentions, then you can see if this is something that other people are also starting to pay attention as well. So if I expand the time horizon here to 15,
not to
for example.
mention, Choreo, like you said, there are more of the actual projects like developers on Farcaster, right? I think that
Absolutely.
also makes a big difference too. Those that are looking to have those sort of heightened conversations and
Insights.
things, that makes a
Absolutely.
big difference in what the actual sentiment is in the conversation that's happening. We'll
So
take a look at this real fast, then I'm going to pass it over to Mark. I just noticed the time, so I don't want to cut you off. Somebody said
sure.
very cool tool. I'm going to share this one as well. Go ahead.
Cool. So let me finalize with that. Renzo, you see that here on the 22nd, 8 mentions. Just 2 days later, like 260 mentions. So like this is like what? This is like I don't like what 30 times or something like this higher in terms of number of mentions. So of course there is something going on. And not only that, you can also, if you want to study some particular subject to better understand it. So for example, let's say concentrated liquidity AMM. This is something that, for example, Mike would like. You can see not just for the trend, but to see what people are saying about it. There is no particular trend, but you can see people what are saying about this subject. Maybe you can learn something and go deeper on it, etc. So here are someone is talking about impermanent loss calculator, etc. So you could also use that to go deeper on subjects that are of interest to you.
That's awesome.
cool.
I shared the link for your Dune, but maybe you wouldn't mind going back to just this Farcaster, like this narrative one that you just showed us, and maybe sharing that link as well.
Which one? This
one here. Or no. Where was it? Farcaster. It was the trends. You're just from the start.
Yeah, you mean this dashboard?
Yes.
Yes, sure. I mean, absolutely. So this is
Thank
part of
you.
my narratives and dashboard, and this one is the price. I think people know that one, and this one, which is called Forecaster Trends, is the link, but it's called Narrative Social Trends. So if you put that
Awesome.
on the search, you can find it easily.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, Corio. I love the
Sure.
fact that you can, I mean, I feel like you can cut through a lot of the noise, Mark, I want to pass it over to you. I don't know if you have something specific planned for us, or if I can maybe get you to touch on a topic that I recently wrote about for Carbon DeFi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I wrote a blog recently, and I forget, I think it was called Who Needs DEX Emissions with ROIs Like That, right? And it was actually quoted from someone. It was a conversation that I had caught in the Graphene Discord, one of the licensed deployments of Carbon DeFi. And this was coming from a user. So it was actually like based on a user testimony, somebody with a live trading strategy. I was hoping we generally talk about recurring orders, right? That sort of rotating liquidity between the separate buy and sell orders. But like Corio just mentioned, concentrated liquidity is something that a lot of DeFi users are really familiar with. Carbon DeFi offers something called overlapping liquidity that we don't really touch on much. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm hoping that maybe you would, and kind of show them what this trading strategy was and what the results of it are.
Yeah, certainly. So I think this is let me know when you can see the screen shared appropriately.
Yeah.
So I think this is the blog entry that you're talking about. Don't need DEX emissions with ROIs like that. And this is you might say like a surprising sentiment, or at least an uncommon sentiment, because in general, most exchanges on blockchains have to incentivize their liquidity providers to do things by giving them, protocol tokens or governance tokens or something, because the underlying mechanism generally doesn't make any money, right? This idea of a rebalancing portfolio that was, as I've said in previous calls, originally envisioned by Banter to be something that a project would shoulder the burden of in order to create liquidity for their own tokens, but has since been sort of, that burden has now been redistributed to their communities. And so this idea of token reward schedules and things like that has become very commonplace, and DeFi Summer was essentially a celebration of that idea. And so what this user is espousing is how surprised he is that, even without receiving any token emissions, that he's been able to achieve, I think it's something like a 96% ROI.
It was 88% when he was sharing it in the Discord. It was 88%. And then by the time I actually went to explore the strategy, it had a couple of additional trades against it, and it was up to 96%. But 96. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, 96% ROI in like 18 days is pretty good. And he did this apparently using overlapping strategies, but with a slightly different sort of carbon twist on it than, or sorry, a concentrated liquidity position, but with a slightly different carbon twist on it. So let's maybe go through this process. So let's say that we were going to do this. Actually, this might be easier to do with the simulator. Yeah. So we've spent a lot of time discussing these fading strategies where the bids and asks are separate things. But concentrated liquidity, and we can do this maybe with a project token that I was speaking with just recently called Swarm. Here we go. And so the carbon version of concentrated liquidity is called overlapping liquidity, and here we are. It's nice and loaded up. And the idea here is that you let your bids and your asks be right next to each other, right? And they kind of follow each other around. And so I can show you what that looks like here. And if you are a DeFi aficionado, you will already have a fairly good understanding of what these things mean. But there are some things here that we can draw attention to that aren't available on other protocols. So first, let's just simulate this, and then we can discuss what's happening. So this is, again, we're not optimizing this. This is mostly for the sake of explanation. But you can see here as the market price moves around, as it's moving into our bidding liquidity, that's being converted into asking liquidity, which is chasing the price further down. And then as the market turns around and comes back up, that's taking some of our asking liquidity, that's being converted into bidding liquidity, and that's chasing the price back up and so forth. And so as the market moves up and down, you can see that we're constantly trading tokens between the two balances that we have. And we're trying to do this in such a way that overall the cost of buying our BZZ in this case is lower than the price that we're selling it for, or at least this is the right way to think about it. Now you can see that there's this gap between the highest bidding price and the lowest asking price. And this is essentially the fee, or this is the thing that people are referring to when they talk about a fee in DeFi. There is no actual fee. And we can adjust this number to whatever we want. On the Carbon DeFi splash page, you'll see that there are these kind of three presets. These are the ones that have been sort of popularized by Uniswap v3. This drives that that spread very, very close together. So if we have a look at something like the 10 basis points fee setting and simulate that, what I want you to pay attention to is what happens to this this ROI number up here. So at the 10 basis points level, you can see we're getting a 3.99% ROI, which is not so bad at all. And then if we come back and then check it at a different level, maybe let's say 5% or something, what this means is we're going to be offering different prices. And so it's not necessarily true that offering a higher fee always results in a better outcome. And so here you can see that at the price level that we have that we've opted for, we're actually getting a slightly negative ROI now. And so that's worth taking into consideration. But the point is that you're not stuck on any of these fee levels. You can choose whichever one you want, and it's not like you have to deploy a whole new liquidity pool every time that you're doing this. And so the adjustability in the fee levels is something that other protocols can't do, at least not in the same way that we're doing it here. And then the other point is that there are no tick boundaries either. So this user who was making markets between Normie and Brion, I think, has been has selected that pair the same way that I have here on Ethereum. And has just chosen an arbitrary price range that they want to trade within. And so that's essentially what they're doing here. So it is a concentrated liquidity situation. It's just that the fee setting and the price ranges are 100% customizable, and they don't have to fit within sort of a hard-coded system that prescribes for the user which settings they can and can't use.
Mark, I had in that blog included the charts of the two tokens that were included, and it's two meme tokens, right?
Mhm.
What was it that, okay, so Normie, if they had, can you scroll a little bit? If they had strictly hodled Normie, no, other way. We're going to Normie. Yep. Okay, so they would be up about 20% versus USD in that 18 days if they had just hodled it. And then if you go down, I think it's Brian because it's a meme token of Brian Armstrong. Okay, right here. About 16% versus USD, but they're up 96% on top of the hodl position. Like on top
Yeah,
of
so
it.
so that's taking their overall yeah, their overall profits versus US dollar will be somewhere in the sort of 35 to 40% region. It's going to depend a lot on their token balances, and I haven't, been through the process of analyzing this, but yeah, I
You
would
can
expect
scroll
somewhere
down
in
because
there.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, but I don't know, even if I had a look at the token balances, so like,
Well, just to show what the actual balances are, right?
sure.
So you can see
So
what
they
they
s-
were starting.
So they started at 58K and 58612 and 2532, and they ended with 130K and 29. So they've increased their positions in both of these tokens quite significantly, and that is during a relatively strong bull trend as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for going over this. I really kind of wanted to highlight a couple of things that you had touched on. So thank you for doing that. One was the exotic trading pairs, right? You can, here, I can take you. You want me to remove you from the stage? You can take any two standard ERC20 tokens, right, and create a trading pair. So you're not obligated to an existing liquidity pool or something of that sort, the way that you are on some AMMs when you're looking to trade a pair, right? The other thing was, the tick restraints, which you had touched on, the custom spread, or what a lot of people refer to as a fee tier. And then the other one, did you mention that the profits are auto compounding in overlapping liquidity as well?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by auto compounding. I tend to not use these words because I'm not sure what people mean when they hear them. But essentially, there is no vault contract where fees accumulate or whatever the fee is. Instead, it accumulates inside the position and is used to recycle between those two ranges. But in an auto, I feel like auto compounding or compounding refers specifically to interest rates, and so it's not necessarily the right term to use. But that is the one that people generally go with, and it's one that even our licensees are using to describe that behavior.
I personally use it to describe that behavior because I think it's something that everybody understands. It automatically compounds, right? Okay, well, thank you so much. I've included the link to the blog in the comments for everyone if they wanted to read it themselves. I've also included a thread that the author of that strategy had written on Twitter. I don't follow them on Farcaster yet, Corey. I don't know if they're on there, but they had gone into what led them to create this specific strategy in terms of searching for a volatile pair and two tokens that he was kind of bullish on, and how he chose which spread to use for that strategy. So I definitely recommend having a look at that. I'll also put a link for Carbon DeFi up there as well. Thank you so much, Mark. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before I pass it over to Keith?
No, I think we've only got 11 minutes left, so let's let Keith have as much time as he needs.
Okay, Keith, we're going to pass it over to you. Let me know when you're ready. I'll bring you up on stage. I was watching your stream yesterday. I know we had some ETF news that we were, anticipating yesterday, and a couple of other things. So let's see what the update is. Let me bring you up here.
All right, I'm coming in hot with fire charts because that's what everybody wants to see, right? So
I love it.
So the first thing I noticed today is we do have as you can see, some bid liquidity developing here in this range. Additional support coming in at the 60K range, and the ladder also building. And notice there's a little break here, right? This is down here, the 50 to 52K range, and this, of course, closer to where we're dealing with right now. I will highlight what I think this means here in a second. The other thing that was glaringly obvious to me this morning was that this orange order class here, which is the smallest of the order classes, those are $100 to $1,000 orders,
Huge spike.
is just all of a sudden in a rocket trajectory. And this coincides, of course, with this degradation in price. And so while many people believe that this is retail, sure, retail lives in this order class, no doubt about that. But in times like this, when I see just big moves like this happening, especially in a smooth line without a lot of contour to it, that's an indication that there's a TWAP situation going on. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, TWAP is a time-weighted average price, meaning somebody is buying methodically similar size orders time and time again. And this seems to be happening rapidly. We can see it even more clearly.
You can see the brown class going down too.
Yeah, we do see
right when that orange spikes.
Well, we see the brown class selling and buying for that matter, but mostly selling here when they get into areas of liquidity that they can sell without too much slippage. And they have been doing that for the past week, pretty much. But if we look at the orange here, rather, I don't know why I keep wanting to call it yellow. If we look at orange here, we can see how this really ramped up from next to nothing 24 hours ago, and really has scaled up. Now, if we switch over to our absolute CVD, we can see that they've actually purchased via market orders 53 million in Bitcoin. And so this is continuing to happen because it was, I checked this a little while ago and it was at 50 million. So it's happening very, very aggressively. And when I checked it first thing this morning, it was at 45 million. So they're continuing to buy aggressively. My pro tip on this one is that ain't retail, my friends. This is clearly an institutional size entity who is dollar cost averaging their way into this position here. And they're doing so at obviously a better price than those Hong Kong ETFs got yesterday. And so that is a good transition into the Hong Kong ETFs, right? So April 30th, which is today for us here in the US, but that market day has already come and gone for traders in Hong Kong. But the debut of a Bitcoin spot ETF and an ETH spot ETF rolled out in the U.S. overnight hours. And, a lot of people expected that demand to maybe mimic what U.S. demand was and to pump price. Obviously, we're not seeing it pump price at this point. And the reason for that is, and I touched on this yesterday in my analysis. Yesterday was the calm before the storm, and today we're seeing the storm. And it's understandable, right? We have a monthly close happening tonight. We have an FOMC meeting tomorrow, which I don't think anybody in their right mind expects a rate cut or a rate hike to come at this time. But the world will be listening to Fed Chair Powell's words and his tone. It always moves markets, even if it's knee-jerk reactions, even if there's whale manipulation happening on. His words will move markets, so we've got to be in tune to that. So then, does this set us up for a hooray for May, or are we going to be set up for a May go away? And, well, we know what the history is on May, right? For those who don't, it's May go away. But in any case, as you can see here, now that all of this liquidity has been cleared out, we have a clear shot to get back up to the 64, 65K range, a concentration of resistance here at 65.5. And then above that, of course, is where the real resistance lives. And that is in this 70K range and higher, up to 76K. Now, we have a history of resistance, technical resistance at 69K. It was the all-time high for literally years. And we've not successfully, obviously, had any validated RS flip, resistance support flip at this level. It broke down every time it broke through it, it wicked back through it, which was a sign of weakness to me. This is important because we're now facing a potential retest of the lower low, 59 and change. And so, seeing that support come in to fire charts here is very, very positive. However, I'd like to see more. and in light of that, in light of not seeing more, if we do see a breakdown here, if we get this retest down here and it holds, that would be very strong and potentially could validate this RS flip here at 59. If we see even so much as a wick, which in my opinion would be a grand fuckery on the last day of the month, that would be indicative of weakness, right? Just like it was weakness every time we wick through here and wick through here and wick down and wick down, that would be a sign of weakness to me. So this is my line in the sand. And if we lose it, it's reasonable to think that the prior consolidation levels, which have not yet been retested, would be viable targets. And for those who say, gosh, we just had a halving, why isn't it going up? I'm not even going to go into it again. How many times we've shown you all of the 20 to 40% corrections that have happened just before or just after a halving or in the middle of a bull market. It can it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. So be prepared for that. How do you prepare for that? Well, if you're building a long-term position and you're holding some dry powder for these opportunities, that's a great way to prepare for that. If you are over leveraged, watch out. You're really putting yourself at risk here. So you need to watch this level very, very closely, because if it breaks down, I think this is a very reasonable target. And quite frankly, we haven't consolidated here very long at that 50 to 52K range, which, this has been my dream target for a long time. Ever since I gave up on the dream of a sub 20K, this has been my dream target because of the amount of time we spent consolidating here. I think this would just be a very, very strong foundation for the next leg up. And in terms of corrections from the current all-time high, it would be 20% here down to this 59K level. It would be 30% here down to the 50 to 52K level. And it would be 40% down here if we took it to the 44, 45K level. So all of those are viable targets, in my opinion. At the moment, we don't see enough sentiment to go down here. But, and here's the big the big but is, look what's happening right now. Right before our eyes, price is trying to retest support here. So let's move into the daily and see how granular we can get with this. This is like pretty close to do or die here, because we saw this ladder coming in and some of it has already moved back up. Some of what was below 60K, let me brighten this up and maybe we can see it a little bit better. Some of what was below here moved up and has already been taken. And so, it's bullish when you see liquidity moving up closer to price. However, once that liquidity is taken, it makes it easier to push back through. So far, there hasn't been enough to shoot price back up. And that's what we're waiting for. I think it's reasonable to expect a holding pattern here in this range, maybe a bit more of a shakeout as we get around this monthly close and Fed Chair Powell's comments tomorrow. Chopping through this range for weeks or maybe even months would not be the worst thing that could happen. I mean, look at this. We had the 60K to 73K. There's plenty of money to be made in both directions if Bitcoin continues to do that. The question is this going to hold for us right now or not? And that's what I'm watching very, very closely. Simple as that.
You got some orders kind of laddered down.
Yeah, and you can see that developing. I'll zoom out a little bit more. You can see that developing here as well. Let me go back to our normal. So this at the moment is about 50K at this level on this monthly binning. And so, as I've shown you before, historically, when we look for that volume that historically defines a large move in either direction, it's much more than this. So with this binning now in a 3-year, this is now covering 58.5 up to just above 60, just about 60K. At 60K, that's 72 million there, right? What I want to see is, and we're getting a lot closer, right? Look how much more this is built up from just a week or so ago. And look at this ladder here as well, right? Much of this has moved up to this level. And so I want to see this in the 90 to 100 million range, at least, right? This was 90 million and another 96 and another 93 and another 58 below that, and a good depth of ladder. We have the good depth of ladder. We need to see a deeper concentration of bid liquidity here. And of course, there's always the risk of seeing a nasty, sell wall come up here that knocks us down. But for the moment, certainly not seeing any sentiment for that mid 40s range, and very little sentiment, comparatively speaking, for the 50 to 52K range, which makes me think that we could hold here, at least in the time being. And we just have to see how things develop, because this is a game of patience.
So it's just significantly less liquidity than what you were comparing to. What was that, a couple months ago?
So this
right?
was.
You think they're just kind of sitting back and waiting to see too, where they actually want to place their liquidity?
Yeah. So typically, it's like a chess match, right? You want to see what the next guy's move is before you. I don't play chess. Who am I trying to kid? But oftentimes. And we can see this maybe a little bit better here. When we don't see price really moving big time, it's a chance for the market to make a decision, right? Do they want to come in and front run this 60K because they don't think it's going to hold, or they think it's going to hold, or are they going to start placing their bids down here? And at the moment, we're seeing a little bit of both. But we're certainly seeing more come down into this 50, 57, 58K range. And I want to see more coming in above 60K. It was happening yesterday. Much of that liquidity has been taken so far this morning, but so far, knock on wood, 60K is still holding. And let's see if we've had any wick down there. No. So far, very, very close. 60,148 is the low on Bitstamp. Might be a little different on your exchange, but so far it's holding, and I'd like to see it hold at least through Fed Chair Powell's comments tomorrow. We'll see. Already, a green monthly close is off the table. So to me, the important levels are maintaining this level down here. Can we validate an RS flip at 59K? And when, for God's sakes, are we going to get a valid RS flip here above 69K? Because that is the pathway out of here. Until this happens, we're going to range.
Ranging isn't so bad, depending on what tools you're using, Mark.
Exactly.
Keith, thank you so much. I did have someone, they didn't comment. They actually sent me a private message, but they really, really enjoy your tools. I did add Material Indicators website to the comments, so everyone can see that.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah, but I was thinking maybe they might want to actually join your community as well. So I don't have your Telegram group. I know that you have two different ones.
Yeah, the easiest way to find us, we have two Telegram groups. One is open to the public, and one is available only to our Premium Plus subscribers as kind of a free bonus for them, so that they don't have to filter through the thousands of messages in the public chat to get to the alpha.
It's a good 1,000 messages, though, I will say, because I do. I mean, like, you have a very solid community. You do.
We appreciate that. We've worked very hard to keep the quality of content up there and try and keep the Moon Boys and Chillers out. They get banned on contact, by the way. But the easiest way to find us and join us in the community is to go to our Twitter page or our YouTube channel, and there's a join link there for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I know that we're 5 minutes over. Mark, I do have a question for you, or something to at least think about, because this was something that came in DM'd also. They
Sure.
said that they love the simulator. They love being able to go back and like back test. Apparently they're familiar with Carbon DeFi, but they are looking for insights as to how to choose that spread, because this is something new that users are able to do now, where it's not just determined for them. Right? Do you have any quick advice on that? It might be a little bit longer a discussion than the, couple minutes that we are already over. But if there's anything that comes to the top of your head, please let us know. Otherwise, maybe we could just have a dedicated conversation and kind of look into the actual strategy creation a little bit deeper.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot there. I think in terms of choosing the spread, this is a recursion problem, because every trade that's made affects future trades, and it's not trivial. So there's not like sort of some formula that you can apply that will tell you the best spread to use. You also can't know the future, right? So choosing the best spread in backtesting won't necessarily tell you what the best spread is moving forward. I've been speaking about these things for a year now. So that simulator actually predates Carbon DeFi's deployment, because it was the model that I built in order to understand Carbon before we released it and to write the white paper and that kind of thing. So there is a lot of material that's already been generated, with me discussing it. But yes, I agree, Jen. We should probably host a more dedicated call specifically to choosing, recurring orders, overlapping liquidity, and where to set the bids and asks. Cool.
Okay. So then to my friend here, or viewer and listener and user, right, who is looking for a little bit more on that, I will let you know, and I'll let everybody else know also. Maybe we'll just do it as a live stream, and we'll just kind of test different things and see what we can learn, as a group together. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Crypto Choreo. I've shared all of our links in the comments and things. We are also now live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So it's Blockchain Banter. I'm, adding all of our calls there. So if anybody wants to go back and see, you can go through any of the destinations that we stream to, these two included now as well. Every Tuesday now at 4 p.m. UTC, we'll be here. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to all of our audience and our listeners and viewers. Definitely appreciate all of you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys. Bye-bye.
See ya.